I'm theciaellis, and welcome to Grandma's Homestead. And yes, I am back here down here at the kitchen at the church, and we've got a ladies meeting tonight, and I'm going to make a batch of brownies. But these are just not regular, these are not box brownies. This is a recipe that was given to my mother way back in the early 70s, I think. And it's just become a family recipe for us. And they turn out real good, and I'll show you. I've got my oven warming up. That's what you're hearing right now, is the oven warming up at 350. I've got my 9x13 pan that's already been oiled, you know, with what I just did with a cooking spray. We're going to have 2 sticks of butter. We're going to have 2 cups of sugar, 4 eggs, a cup and a half of flour, half a cup of cocoa, and vanilla. This is imitation, sorry, and a little bit of salt. This is something that you can also add. I love doing pecans or anything else, but we're gonna just do the plain regular brownies. First of all, we're going to start with 2 sticks of softened butter. Make sure you get it out for at least 30 minutes before you want to use it, because mixing up butter that's still cold is not much fun. 1 cup of sugar. And 2 cups of sugar. We're going to have our hand mixer here, and we're going to mix this all up. Alright, we've got the sugar and the butter mixed together, or creamed, is what they call it, creaming it. And I don't know if you know, but I started out slow. Anytime you have any sort of dry ingredients, it is like sugar or flour or something, you start with your mixer lower so you don't poof it everywhere. And the more you mix butter and sugar, the more it fluffs up. And then after you add your eggs, then the more you mix, the more fluffy your brownies are going to be also. So if you want chewier brownies that are not quite as fluffy, you don't mix it as much. If you want a big fluffy brownie, you mix it a lot. So, and if you look, I've already got these done. You always crack your eggs into a separate container, so that if you have an eggshell that gets away, you can get it out before it gets into your main ingredient thing here. So we're going to add the eggs, and we're going to mix this together now. We've mixed that mostly. We've still got a few little chunks here and there. But by the time we add the flour and everything else, everything we mix together very nicely. I like my brownies just a little more chewy, so we're going to try to go with that if we possibly can. Now we're going to add 1.5 cups of flour. And half a cup of cocoa. And let me try to mix this by hand for a minute. See how big a mess I can make here. Half a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of vanilla. Now this is a good time, if you have them, to add your pecans, chocolate chips, peanut butter chips, any sort of nut that you like. And I actually like, if you like have Hershey's chocolate syrup or something like that, I like to do a couple of squirts of that in there. That makes it a nice flavor too. But right now we're just going to stick to the basic recipe. Spread it all out even as best you can. It will level out as it warms up, but you want to give it a little bit of a start. We're going to put this in the oven, and we'll set our timer for 25 minutes, and we'll check it then. Now this is a convection oven, so it goes a little bit faster, but I want to show you a couple of ways to tell when something is done. If you look around the edges, they're just starting to pull away from the edges. That's a really good indication. See where right there it's pulling? That's a good indication. And then of course you can touch it and it's not sticky. I was raised using a toothpick to testing it, but honestly, if it's pulling away from the edges and you don't want to let it pull too far away from the edges, because then it'll be all dried out and stuff. So we've got this out of the oven. We're going to let it cool for a little while, and then we'll test it after a few minutes. This has had plenty of time to cool. It's still a little bit warm, but it's warm, cool to the touch. I'm using a plastic knife because a friend of mine here, no, they do box brownies, so I don't know, but she says when you're doing box brownies, the plastic knife is the best one to use to cut it. I don't know how it'll be. Yeah, it's not working bad for this too. We'll cut a little corner out here and we'll give it a little bit of a taste. Like I said, this will be so good with stuff in it. Alright, let's give this a taste. To me, homemade is so much better than box. And this is right up there with it too. Like I said, a little bit of Hershey syrup squeeze in there. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Chocolate chips, nuts, anything, add it to this. This is just a basic recipe, but man, it's good. Alright, that's all I've got for you today. I want to remind you that I'm also on TikTok under theciaellis. Yeah, theciaellis. And I do a scripture of the day, I do a quote of the day. And then every once in a while I find something else to put on TikTok also. But you can find me there, and especially if you need a little bit of inspiration from either a scripture or a quote. That way I've got a bunch of them out there now. Alright, that's all I've got for you today, guys. God bless. I'll see you next time.